Hi guys, so this is Dicot Medical, and today we're going to be doing something a bit different and a bit special from what we've been doing before. Today's video is going to be about presentation or defense, particularly Siwes defense, and it is tailored majorly towards those in physiology in Afe Babalola University. It may also be of help in anatomy or any other course which you may be studying, but most of the things I have here are departmental standards or from various lecturers in physiology. So when we're talking about presentation, Siwes, yes, your Siwes presentation or your Siwes defense, it's actually divided into two parts. That is the slide part, as in your PowerPoint slide, and then the defense itself. So we're going to start with the PowerPoint slide first. Now, the PowerPoint slide is your visual aid. It's going to help you during your presentation, and it is also that document or that slide that you are going to print out and give to the lecturers or the panel of judges. Now, there is a departmental standard of how your slides are supposed to look like. That's the first thing we're going to be talking about on the slides. Now, there's a departmental format of how the slides are going to, they must look at, like your slides must follow this format. Now, the first thing in departmental format is your font size. Now, the title of whichever slide, like in a PowerPoint slide, in the entire PDF, there are different slides inside. Now, the title of each slide should have a particular font size, and that font size should be 40 or more. 40 or more, but I would recommend just sticking to 40 or more. For example, if you want to start outline, yes, the outline, where it would show the different headings of what you'll be talking about that day. The outline must be size 40. The introduction to what you're going to be talking about must be size 40. Then the body would be size 32. Do you get? It may seem not possible, but it is very, very possible, and you will figure out how possible it is in the course of this video. So the body would be 32, the title size 40, and you have to make sure that every single thing that is written in your slide, every single word, every single alphabet must be Tahoma style. So that's font style. The first thing we spoke about was font size. Now we're talking about font style. So both your title and both your body, everything, even your citations, your references, everything must be in Tahoma. It's very, very, very compulsory. The third thing is slide number. You can go to Google or go on YouTube and check how you can put slide number, but you can just click on insert. From what I remember on your PowerPoint, like the PowerPoint app, you can just click on insert and then you will see slide number. So it is very important to put slide number, and it is not just important that you put slide number, but you must make sure that that slide number is visible. If you just insert that slide number now, and the font size of the slide number is like 10 or 12, trust me, nobody's going to see your slide number. So after inputting the slide number, you will now have to go to each slide number and then adjust it to, let's say, size 32. For my slide, what I did was that I inserted, or I put slide number for every slide. Then I went back and made sure that the slide number was 32, like size 32. I was manually adjusting to 32 so that it would be very, very visible. Now, the next three things we're going to be talking about would be referencing, citation, and then outline. So your referencing, as long as you're doing Siwes defense in physiology, your referencing must be Harvard style. Harvard style, not APA. Harvard style. APA is for postgraduate students. Now, Harvard style, meaning that when you get your reference from whichever research paper you use, you put it into Google Scholar. Like when you get your reference, you put it into Google Scholar, the title of the paper. Then there's a citation mark. It looks like the end of a quotation mark, and you click it, you see different style. You see the reference of that research paper, then you now see different styles on how to reference. You will see Harvard, so pick Harvard style. For whatever research paper you are referencing, it must be Harvard style Tahoma 32. Harvard style Tahoma 32. Next is citation. For every image that you put in your slide, whether you get it from a Google link, whether you took it by yourself, it must be clearly indicated. Okay, for example, if you got a picture from a research paper, you put it under. It must be shown under. But you can put adapted from. Some of my papers or some of my pictures, I got them from research journal, so I put adapted from so journal. So you can put adapted from dash whichever. And then when you're citing that adapted from, after the adapted from, if you see the first name, for example, let's say a research paper was published by Dicot, medical, medicine, etc. You put adapted from Dicot et al. ETAL, adapted from Dicot et al. You cannot start putting numerous names there, and you cannot put two and then put et al. It has to be, if it was one person that wrote the paper, fine, adapted from Dicot. But if it was more than one person, adapted from Dicot et al. Okay, the third thing, like in this batch, or the sixth thing right now, would be your outline. Make sure that it is outline. Make sure what you wrote there is outline and not table of contents. This is departmental standard. It should be outline, not table of contents. Now, the last two things that are part of the departmental format are, number one, you must make sure that per slide, per PowerPoint slide, okay, you must not have more than 4 concepts or 4 points 4 core points. What do I mean? You want to talk about the procedure of spirometry. You need to make sure that your core points must be 3, maximum 4 points per slide. That is 4 bullet points per slide. Meaning that if you want to talk about the procedure, let's say this procedure for spacing, the procedure for spacing in spirometry, you have to find a way to minimize it. That's why it is very key that you need to understand what you're going to talk about, so that you will find a way to minimize it. Procedure of spacing is more than 4. It's more than 4 chances. You have to prep the space. In fact, you have to assemble the spacer. You have to prep the spacer. Then you have to explain to the patient. You have to prep the patient. All of that. You will find a way. You need to find a way to minimize it into less than 4. Yes, 4 or less bullet points. That's departmental standard. The last thing, very, very important in departmental standard, is your slide. Like each slide, it must not be wordy. It must not be wordy. I cannot stress how important this is. Your slide must not be wordy. Let me give you a key on how you can do this now. When you finish creating your slide, okay, when you go through it, and you must don't lie to yourself. If it is more than 4 bullet points per slide, or if it is more than like 4 or 5 sentences, it is wordy. Now, when you finish going through it, your slide, okay, when you can see that it is wordy, like, don't lie to yourself. What you can do is that you're going to edit. You're going to have to edit that slide. If it's an explanation that is in that slide, or explanation of different concepts, you would put the prompts of the explanation of those concepts as the point, like as the bullet points. For example, if you are doing ECG, electrocardiography, or electrocardiogram, and you want to give us the different definitions of an electrocardiograph, an electrocardiogram, electrocardiograph paper, all these things, you don't need to write every single thing there. What you can do is that you can put the bullet points: electrocardiograph, electrocardiograph paper, electrocardiogram. Then with your mouth, you can now explain those things, or you can now define those things, and you must be very, very fast. But to prevent wordiness of your slide, like WORDINES. If you don't want to make sure your slide is not so wordy, you need to make this part to make sure your slide is not wordy, to make sure your slides are as scanty as possible. Okay, make each PowerPoint. If you open to a slide and you see that it is wordy, make each point or each bullet point a prompt to a definition, to prompt you, because you're the one that's going to defend it, a prompt to your definition. 2 final last things under departmental format is that, number 1, you need to make sure your slide is in reported speech. Reported speech meaning so and so was done. You may want to put I did so and so, but it is mostly permitted to just put so and so was done. So in reported speech, that is number 1. Like I said, there are 2 last things in departmental format. Number 1, you must make sure that it is in reported speech. If you don't know what reported speech is, go and Google it and adjust your slide. It really, really counts. It really, really counts, because even if the judges don't talk about it, they have it in their minds. Okay, it really, really counts. The last thing is that your slide must contain physiologic parameters, meaning that if you're talking about something that has to do with, let's say, action potential for muscle, resting membrane potential for muscle, for nerves, or for nerve tissue, you have to include it in the slide. That the resting membrane potential for muscle can be, or the resting membrane potential for muscle is minus 90, resting membrane potential for nerve tissue is minus 70, and then when action potential takes place, it becomes plus 30, something like that. So even in the prompt, as much as it is a prompt, you should also include physiologic parameters. It is very, very important, because you are in physiology. We've spoken about departmental formats for your physiology slide. The next things we're going to be talking about also on that slide, there are going to be comments that were made, or comments which I heard or I got during the course of my presentation and watching presentations from different judges. Yes, from different judges. Okay. Number 1, it is very recommended that you use pictures or videos to represent what you are trying to talk about. If you're talking about a procedure, if you're trying to talk about a physiologic system, if you're trying to link some things together, rely heavily on diagrammatic explanation of images or videos. In my slide, I had a video that showed how I was able to perform a particular procedure, and instead of listing out the procedure, or instead of identifying those procedures one by one in my slide, what I did was that I just put the video there, and when it was time for me to defend, I played the video while I was defending. Now, even though you're going to print these papers, or you're going to print this slide into papers and give your judges, it is still necessary, and it will still count for you to have a good number of images, okay, to make a good impression, for you to have a good number of images in your slide. In the slide that you are making, number 2, please do not expose or do not imply the weakness of any organization or any institution that you got your experience from. Do not expose, do not imply. Please, it was by grace that you were able to work in that institution, okay? It was by grace you were able to work in that institution. Most of us, or most of you that worked in the institution, did not pay. It was favor, it was grace, it was from the goodness of their hearts. Please and please do not expose. If you notice anything, do not expose it, do not include it in your slide. You are only doing yourself, you are not doing them. Okay, do not shoot yourself in the leg with your recommendation and conclusion. Don't go and form guy man. Like, do not, in whatever you recommend, okay, in whatever, when I say recommendation, in whatever you recommend, again, do not expose or do not imply the weakness of whatever institution you worked in or whatever institution you are presenting in. Don't expose it. There's really no need for you to bring that out. There are many things you can recommend. You can recommend something to yourself. You can recommend something to your fellow students. For example, you can recommend that your fellow students be more active in learning. There are many things you can recommend. And then in your conclusion, when I say don't shoot yourself in the leg, I mean that your experience explicitly states what you experience. If it was that you experienced something practically for the first time, even though you had a theoretical understanding or theoretical knowledge, you can conclude that you're able to get practical understanding on that knowledge. But if you're learning something for the first time, as it was not taught to you your school curriculum, you can now say, okay, I learned for the first time, but please just use your sense. Please, it is very important that you show at least one lecturer your slide before your presentation. Before your presentation, before the day of your presentation, show at least one, like before the day of your presentation, before you print out your slide, show at least one lecturer your slide. Because as much as this video will help you, please show a lecturer or show a lecturer your slide. As much as this video would help you, it is always top notch or prioritized mostly to get it straight from the mouth of your lecturer. Okay, and then lastly, in your work, you need to include all the experience that you got. In your slide, you need to include all the experience that you got. What do I mean? You have a time limit or you have a time space of 5 minutes. It is not possible for you to explain every single thing in detail that you did in those 5 minutes. But what you can do is that you can include it in your slide. You don't have to talk about everything that is in your slide. You have a time frame, okay? You don't have to talk about everything that is in your slide. You just have to go straight to the point, straight to what you are there to talk about that day. But do not forsake the other things you did. For example, I got my experience at a physiology laboratory of a college, and then a laboratory in a hospital. Now, what I presented on was on a particular procedure I learned in the physiology laboratory of the college. But in my slides, I included all the procedures that took place in the physiology laboratory of the college and the procedure that I learned in the laboratory of the hospital. It was only during my presentation that I stopped to explaining that particular procedure. But in my slide, it is detailed, as like those things are detailed, they are listed out, the things that I experienced being carried out. It's very important because you want to avoid any questioning of if that is the only thing that you learned or if that's the only thing you're able to experience in your 3-month stay. Don't be the weapon fashioned against yourself. Now, this video majorly spoke on your slide, like what you need to have in your slide, what's very important in your slide, what you need to note. This is just the part 1. The next video is going to talk about, the next video coming immediately after this talks about your presentation, your defense itself.